Top 10 Beautiful Spring Flowers for a Colorful Garden Makeover. Hey friends! Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to explore 10 of the most beautiful and perfect spring flowers that can turn your garden into a colorful paradise. So stay with us until the end of the video. Many people who enjoy growing flowers, houseplants, and seasonal garden plants start looking for the perfect spring blooms as winter comes to an end. If you're wondering which flowers are best to plant in pots during spring, what blooms to grow in your garden this season, or when the ideal time is to plant spring flowers, stay with us in this video on Green Home 001. Spring is the season of growth and renewal. That's why, as it begins, trees start to blossom and come back to life. One of the most beautiful things about spring is the colorful gardens and the opportunity to plant the best seasonal flowers in pots and flower beds. Anyone with even a small garden at home tries to make the most of this time and enjoy a few months of the fresh, joyful beauty of short-lived spring blooms. But keep in mind, to make the most of your spring planting, it's important to know which flowers are right for this season and how to plant them properly and at the right time, whether in pots or directly in the soil. In this video, we'll introduce you to 10 beautiful spring flowers and talk about the best choices to plant this season. Pansy Flower. One of the most beautiful and popular flowers for the spring season is the pansy. These charming blooms are commonly planted in home gardens and even in public spaces across cities. What makes pansies one of the best flowers to plant in spring is their love for sunlight and their ability to thrive in mild spring temperatures. The best way to grow pansies is to buy seedlings, also known as transplants, from a greenhouse and plant them in your garden toward the end of winter. 4 o'clock flower Mirabilis jalapa. 4 o'clock flowers are great spring garden plants, especially in mild climates, because they need plenty of sunlight to grow well. In warmer regions, they can also be grown in pots and kept in partially shaded areas. The best way to plant these spring beauties is by storing and planting their tubers bulbs. You can also buy a potted plant from a greenhouse and transfer it to your garden as spring approaches. The sooner you plant them, the better, since their blooming period is relatively short. Monkey flower Mimulus. With its love for sunlight and temperatures above freezing, the monkey flower has become one of the most beautiful flowers for spring. These flowers, which bloom in a variety of colors, are best grown from seeds. Monkey flowers are known as annuals, meaning they only produce beautiful blooms for one season. Cold winter temperatures can reduce their quality, making them less likely to bloom well the following year. Therefore, planting seeds ensures vibrant flowers for just 1 year. Petunia Flower. Many of us associate the name Petunia with springtime in old houses. Since these flowers need direct sunlight to thrive, the best way to care for them is by planting them in your garden. It's important to remember that overwatering can harm petunias, so be cautious with irrigation. The best method for planting them is by using seedlings, which can be planted in your garden during the months of January and February. These beautiful flowers usually bloom until the end of summer. Hyacinth Flower. The hyacinth is a symbol of spring and one of the flowers traditionally used for the haftseen table during Nowruz Persian New Year. The best way to plant this fragrant flower is by using its bulbs. Hyacinths can be grown both in gardens and in pots. They require direct sunlight and well-drained soil for proper growth. Since these flowers have a relatively short lifespan, it's recommended to plant the bulbs in late autumn to ensure a beautiful bloom in the spring. Daisy flower. Another beautiful flower that blooms in spring is the daisy. These flowers have a relatively long lifespan and can sometimes bloom all the way until fall. To decorate your garden with these spring flowers, you can either plant seeds during the summer or use seedlings for planting in early autumn. Daisies require direct sunlight and relatively low watering to thrive, making these essential care tips for successful growth. Stalk flower. One of the best and most beautiful types of spring flowers is the stalk flower. The main reason people love these flowers is their delightful fragrance. In fact, some people use them as a substitute for hyacinths on the half-seen table during Nowruz Persian New Year. Stalk flowers are more tolerant of cold than heat, which makes them perfect for spring. They also require direct sunlight and can be planted in your garden. The best way to grow them is by using seedlings, which should be planted in late winter for optimal growth. Primrose flower. The primrose is another beautiful flower perfect for spring, and it has long been a symbol of the arrival of the season. Different varieties of primrose have varying levels of tolerance to cold and sunlight, but in general, they do not thrive in direct sunlight. You can plant seedlings of cold-tolerant primroses in your garden during the fall, allowing them to bloom in the spring as the weather warms up. Their soil should be well drained, mixed with sand, and rich in nutrients for optimal growth. Aster Mina flower. The Aster flower is another great choice for planting in your garden during spring. The best way to plant them is by using seedlings. Like pansies, asters love direct sunlight and, if provided with the right growing conditions, can bloom all the way until the end of summer. Since their roots are cold-hardy, you can leave them in the soil over the winter for a potential bloom in the following year. Nasturtium flower. If you live in a region with a mild climate, you can use nasturtium flowers as a beautiful spring bloom for your garden. To brighten up your home in the spring, plant seedlings in your garden during the fall. If you decide to grow them in pots, be sure to place the pots in direct sunlight. Also, remember that overwatering can harm these flowers, so be careful not to drown them. Best time to plant flowers in spring. Before deciding which flower seeds to plant in spring or which flowers are best for your garden, it's important to know when to plant them. Spring flowers can be planted in several different ways, and each method requires a specific timing. In the following, we'll briefly explain each of these methods. Bulb cultivation. Growing and caring for flowers like tulips, lilies, and similar blooms is done by taking care of their bulbs. Therefore, if you want to use them as spring flowers, it's important to store the bulbs in a cool, dark place when they dry out. Then, in late autumn, you can replant them in your garden or pots. Seed planting. The method for planting seeds of many spring flowers, such as pansies, involves planting the seeds in the soil with the goal of germination. Typically, they are planted in late summer so they can sprout by early fall, and the seedlings can then be transferred to the garden. Using this method, these plants will bloom in spring. Transplanting from pots to the garden. One of the simplest methods is purchasing pre-planted flowers in pots from nurseries before spring arrives. Once the weather becomes mild, these flowers can be planted in the garden, or they can be kept in their pots indoors. Outdoor space. If you're looking for variety, beauty, and a touch of freshness, these 10 flowers can truly turn your garden into a little paradise. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming tips and guides.